Hello and welcome to my video review for Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I'm your gracious host Urzaban and I thank you for coming out and giving my channel a chance. So, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, why am I reviewing this now months late? The main reason I took time out of my current review schedule to talk about this game is simply due to the fact that I was such a giant fan of the original Mirror's Edge back in the day, to where I was going to play and review this game no matter what. So, now that I've waited the full 8 years for this game, played it, and have an opinion on it, how do I feel about Mirror's Edge Catalyst overall? Overall, I find it very disappointing. Here's why I find it disappointing in all the different categories of the game. So just to change up the format of my reviews, I'm going to go ahead and do the story and universe first, then the technical aspects, and finally the gameplay. So, the story and universe for Mirror's Edge Catalyst, how does it hold up? So, I'd say overall, it's pretty underwhelming simply due to the fact that they rebooted everything. So here we are, game 2 in the franchise, and we already have a total reboot to the story, universe, and characters of the first game. Overall, I really don't like this for 3 key reasons. So the first reason I really don't care for this reboot concept is that I'm never going to get a resolution of the first game's nail-biting cliffhanger ending, and I really want a resolution of that, and now that I've waited all this time for it and I'm never getting it, it honestly kind of hurts, and I feel anyone who played the first game back in the day and waited for this game the full 8 years is gonna feel hurt by that. Then we have my second reason. So my second reason for not really liking this reboot concept as much as I don't like it is mostly accredited to me being such a massive fan of the original story and universe to where I'm just ultimately sad to see it go. And while I will admit first and foremost that the first game's story was nothing to write home about, it was at least decent, and the universe that they created with the modern day dystopian setting was a really good platform to build a franchise off of, unlike what they did with the reboot angle that they have here, which makes for the perfect segue into my third reason. So my third and final reason for not really liking the reboot concept that they did here segues into my thoughts on the story in the best way possible, so I'm going to sum up the story right after I give you this reason to further my point. So that final reason that I have for not really liking this reboot concept is they use this new chance at the story and universe to take it in the world's most generic pathline that they could have taken it. It literally went from being a relatively unique modern day dystopian setting to being a super generic sci-fi dystopian setting. So now, without further ado, my sum up and opinion on the story. So, let me sum up the story this way. In the near future, overbearing corporations have come into power, and they're doing everything they can to take away free will, so it's up to you and your bros to take down the man, bro. Well, thanks, bro, but I've seen that plotline so many times, bro, to where if it's not unique in some way, it gets really old really fast, bro. Now that's enough bros to make anyone cringe, so I'm shutting that shit down right now. Moving forward, it's executed in the most generic way possible, because while they went with this super generic setting, you can give your own unique spin and twist to it. Unfortunately, this game does not do that. The story goes in such a generic pathline to where you can see everything that's about to happen from start to finish before it even happens, and by the time you get to the ending, you're so goddamn underwhelmed with the story to where you just want it to be over with. Then on top of that, every character in the game is a bleeding stereotype. Here's 3 examples. You have the overly generic main character that's badass but really bland and doesn't really care about anything up until the very end in the form of Faith in this game, aka the only carryover character from the first game. You have Icarus, the hot-headed rookie who's anxious to get into a fight but really doesn't know how to handle himself. Then Plastic, who's the fast-talking tech whiz. All of these are well-known stereotypes that everyone's heard of. So the game literally has the most generic story and characters, so rebooting the universe was literally the biggest disservice they could have done to the story, in my opinion, because it made me hate it in almost every real facet. That being said, I still like Faith as a character, and this isn't beyond saving, it's just off to a bad start if they continue from this game. So, in transitioning to the production value, let me go ahead and say that the high production value of this game does a lot to try to carry this game from the other crappy aspects of it. So I definitely have almost nothing but good things to say when it comes to the production of this game. So to start things off, let me talk about the graphical fidelity of this game. So graphically, I have to commend this game quite a bit because almost everything looks quite nice. The textures are really good, the environments are very well designed, the lighting and shadowing effects are really nice, and then it's got solid character models to boot. So everything graphically ties in very well. Matter of fact, I found the environments to be so beautiful looking, I found myself staring at certain environments and backdrops for around 5-6 minutes at a time just to take in the sights because it looked that nice. So with the graphics covered, let me switch gears to the voice acting and sound score of this game. Honestly, when it comes to voice acting, I have no real complaints of how the voice acting is done quality-wise, simply due to the fact that everyone did a good job reading off all of their lines. No one really felt like they were particularly bored there. It's just the only real issue that the game had with voice acting is the characters lack any real chemistry, so a lot of depth in scenes when they're trying to be super serious kind of bleeds out and loses effect. But honestly, that's not the quality's fault, that's just the bad writing's fault. So voice acting quality-wise, I have no real issues with it, and it's actually done pretty damn good. So with that being said, how's the sound score in this game? Which, in this particular case, I can say without a doubt that the electronical ambient soundtrack of Mirror's Edge Catalyst is the best part of the production, simply due to the fact that it ties in with the environments and missions so well to where when I would lose myself in the environments, I would also find myself lost in the atmospheric tones and sound scores of this game because it fits everything so goddamn well, and it feels on par with the first game's great sound score and does nothing but propels the game up to a higher level of production, and it's my favorite part of the production. So all in all, production-wise, Mirror's Edge Catalyst is done pretty well with solid graphics, solid sound design, and solid voice acting, but there are a couple problems in that department that I have stated, but overall the production is done very well for this game. So with all of that said, let me talk about the gameplay. So there's been two major changes from the formula of gameplay provided in the first one. We now have a skill tree system and an open world tied to the combat and parkour of the first game. So, how does the open world handle itself? Overall, I like the concept of the open world, but its execution is so shitty. Now, the reason I like the concept a lot is because it gives a lot more visual storytelling to the universe that I liked a lot in the first game, because you see other runners moving around, there's more NPCs that you can interact with, and Kruger Six patrolling looking for lawbreakers, so it gave more world building to the universe that I liked before, and I like the concept for that reason. Now, the actual execution of the open world needs a lot of work. Now, I really don't like the open world because a lot of the side activities like collectible hunting, time trial fetch quests, and police hub takedowns are really bland and repetitive and don't do anything to add to the overall experience and feel rather mediocre. The one I found to be the most insulting was the time trial fetch quests that actively punish you for indulging the open world early on in the game, because if you don't have the proper movement upgrades needed to complete them, they're damn near impossible to complete and require perfect runs to do so, and when you finally complete them, you only have around 1 to 2 seconds before you're out of time to finish the run.
I have a friend in one of the other cells. This package actually contains a flower. I know it's a bit over the top, but she said she'd never seen one, and I thought, well, please deliver it for me. But be careful, it's quite delicate.
Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it.
Over here.
Damn it. Now we need to come up with something else to send her.
Please deliver it for me. But be careful, it's quite delicate.
I hope you're still dangerous myself and get too far to her. Before I got out, I was lonely. I did that, I was in the view. The flower is ordered. My brother gave it to me. Miss just like I miss him. I'm way back from now. I'm committed to the Cadillac November. I promise brother to touch it, I will. But I'll have to warn him when I leave the city. Meantime, I thank him for the flower, and that be super to her.
Thank you. I wonder what he sent me this time. It really is very sweet, but I just don't know. If Rebecca finds out, well, it's not really your concern, is it? Thanks again.
So all in all, I would say that's the worst one because it actively punishes you for indulging the open world early on, and then the police hub takedowns and diversions do nothing but show off the game's god-awful combat system that I will go into full detail about later. So all in all, the open world's rather lazy, crappily executed, and doesn't really offer much to the overall experience. So, with that being said, it's a rather bland system that I really wouldn't have cared for if it was taken out of the game. So the next thing I want to cover in this section of the review is the parkour system of this game, because while I did enjoy the parkour system of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I ultimately feel like it's a massive step down from what it was in the original Mirror's Edge, and here's why. with that reason why being the arbitrary upgrade system that they force you into with the parkour and movement in this game. Now, while I'm not against there being a skill tree system, what I don't like is a lot of moves that you could do right at the start of the first game, like the impact roll and the 180 jump turn that are very integral to the base gameplay, are locked off behind an EXP barrier for you to unlock, so this makes the game way more clunky to play from the start and feels way more clunky throughout and makes it way harder for you to do side activities without having these abilities available to you. So overall, if they could have just made two bigger skill trees for the other sections and left the parkour alone, I honestly think it would have done a world of difference for the parkour instead of making it into the clunky mess that it is for around 1/3 to half of the game, depending on how much side activity stuff you do. So the next thing to really cover here is the combat system of this game. And my god, the combat in this fucking game sucks. It's literally one of the most underdeveloped piece of trash melee-based combat systems I have ever fucking seen that fails for two key reasons: shitty physics and shitty enemy AI. Let's start with the physics. When you stumble enemies by clashing them into one another and pushing them over certain things, the physics are so bad to where it compounds damage on impact, where people will die just from crashing into one another or flipping over waist-high rails, and makes for the most ludicrous death animations I've seen in a long-ass time. Then on top of that, the enemy AI is so goddamn stupid and exploitable to where you end up with gems of fight scenes like this.
Oh, whoa. Plastic! I need those doors open! Now!
I'm doing my best.
There's K-Tech everywhere!
I said I'm doing my best. The doors are open. There, they're open.
Oh god. Why is this working? Oh god. Nothing but triangle. Oh lord. And I swear by my reviewer's integrity, I in no way doctored this footage. The combat's just naturally this laughably bad. So, all in all, while I can enjoy certain things like the upgrade system to learn more moves and the different enemy types like the small strikers, the medium strikers, the big brooding strikers, and then the guys that hang back and shoot you from a distance, it ultimately doesn't matter when the AI is this dumb, this exploitable, and I can get away just by spamming my heavy attack and a couple dodge moves. Which is why I consider the combat system to be the absolute worst part of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. So to wrap everything up gameplay-wise, the open world's a cool idea that's just executed in a very poor way. The parkour's good enough but feels like a downgrade from the first game. And then the combat system's so laughably bad to where I'm having a hard time finding anything good about it. So all in all, it feels like the gameplay's taken a major step down to where it's almost a shit game in every category gameplay-wise. So now that I've talked about everything I want to cover in this review, it's time for me to give you my full opinion and verdict on this game. Now, overall, I am glad that we eventually got another Mirror's Edge game after waiting 8 years for it, but I can't say I'm too thoroughly impressed with the game that we eventually got. So the major reason I'm disappointed with this game is that it's just riddled with issues all over the place. Now, if you've had a shit ton of fun with this game and love it, great. I would never take that away from you, but for me personally, I just have too many issues with this game to personally recommend it to anyone that I know from my own experience. So all in all, for me, all of these issues drag this game down to what I consider to be a massively inferior experience to the first game, because while there is an open world, it was ultimately so poorly executed to where I wish it wasn't there. The combat system's gotten so laughably bad to where I can't take it seriously, and then the parkour movement system feels like a downgrade of what it was in the first game, and the new story and universe doesn't hold a candlestick to the first game for me, because while that story was decent, the story in Mirror's Edge Catalyst was on honestly pretty shit. So everything considered, other than the graphics and sound design, everything feels like a downgrade of the first game, and I can't judge a game off of graphics and sound alone, so I'm going to give Mirror's Edge Catalyst a 4 out of 10, a full 3 points lower than I consider the first Mirror's Edge game, and now that I've seen the 2 mirrors of this franchise, I can say that there's only one Mirror's Edge. And on that note, I'm going to end the review. Let me know what you guys thought of this game and if you agree with me or not, and I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing life. Bitches.